There we go. Hello, everybody. So there was some stuff that has come up for me, and it started with meeting with Kat and Wesley and Angie. And it was like nothing is wrong. I just noticed my reaction. And just coming on to the meeting today, I couldn't get in the room. So my first thought was, oh my God, something's wrong. Only because that's how I'm hardwired. You may not be hardwired this way. I am. And so I immediately thought, what's wrong and how do we fix it? And that's what we're going to talk to today. Don't bite. Don't bite the ego bait. And there's ego bait every day, all day long. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little about this perceptual world. Hang on here a second. I need to get to there it is. So if you remember, and many of you that have been listening to me for any length of time, I'm sure you remember this diagram. Levels of mind. It's David Hoffmeister's invention, but it works on so many levels. And I'm just going to read. So the preface, this is what A Course in Miracles is all about. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Okay. Now, for most of my book study life in A Course in Miracles, this made no sense to me whatsoever. I couldn't figure it out. It's like, okay, I'll just assume it's accurate and let's move on, because it doesn't make any sense to me. Well, the reality is, and again, on levels of mind, this outermost ring, and you can Google this anywhere, levels of mind, and this document will come up. This little blue ring around the whole thing. This is a dissection of a belief. And around the entire circumference of the belief is the perceptual world. And that's where we live. That's where we're born. That's where we suffer. That's where we have moments of happy. And then we eventually die. That's it. That's what we're buying into. And I go back to our wise woman, Marianne, who a couple of weeks ago said she's done with listening to the lies she's told herself her entire life. This is it. These are the lies. This light blue ring is where the lies are. All of them. And so until we get done with listening to ourselves, agreeing with the lies, we can't go anywhere. We're stuck in life and death and with as much suffering as possible. So once you get tired of hearing yourself and all your beliefs, then you're able, and you'll know when you're getting close to dismantling a belief, because you'll have some feelings come up. Now, this is where most people run for the hills immediately and start screaming out loud. And I'm just sharing my own experience. I didn't, it's like, no, no, this can't be happening. And the reality is you have to have the emotions that have kind of bottled up. It's like we're these beautiful aged champagne bottles, and our beliefs are stuffed with the cork in the top of the bottle. We can't drink the fine wine. We just look at the pretty bottle. That's the perceptual world. And go, oh, I want to share this. Look at this pretty bottle. Oh, have you seen my pretty bottle? And that's where we live. This is the unreal. But we live like it's real. Nothing real can be threatened. That's the love of God. Nothing unreal exists. That's the perceptual world. That's everything we believe. And then herein lies the peace of God. If you can find this, if you can truly understand this, you can pierce through emotions, thoughts, and beliefs. You can pierce through this whole thing and get to the center, which is just the desire for God. Now, this little center is where miracles happen. This is where we become miracle workers. This is the truth of who we are, is this little tiny blue section at the center of all our beliefs. And so it's the only thing I have found really worthy of investigating on myself, was really going to, why do I continue to believe my lies that I tell myself? And that started out with me getting terminal cancer and ending up in hospice. And it's going, wow, again, and I know I've said this before, but all I knew was I'm not happy. And Jesus was quite clear in A Course in Miracles, your function is to be happy. Well, it's like, I was so far from that function, I couldn't even find it. And so, that was there has to be a better way moment. And so I went back to the beginning and really, went through the whole course again as an experience, not as book study. And it's like, and all there is for me applying everything to my mind. I'm going to say this and don't be offended. And if you are, deal with it. I don't care about your minds. You need to do that. I have a full-time job with this mind. And so all I can share with is how to continue to challenge the lies that you've told yourself. Because until you see that you're telling yourself lies, you'll continue to project on other people and make the dream as real as possible. And that's not it. You'll die with as much suffering as possible. But if you can truly open your arms to this process and really see that you're asleep, just like, in the Garden of Eden, Adam fell asleep, but he never woke up. We're asleep. And it's now the time to wake up. But the only one that can do that is me or you. It's individual heads have to do this. We can't do this as a group. I can't do this there's no guru on the planet that can do this for you. So quit looking for gurus. Kill them. It's like the Buddha. Kill them. They're not going to be helpful. And so this is where we can get to the peace of God. And that's an individual experience. You don't study and learn how to be peaceful in God. You do this by challenging your mind. Every time you have a thought, that's wrong. Challenge that lie. Every time you have a thought. Okay, I keep getting, Esmeralda is having trouble getting into the Zoom, and I keep getting notified about it. I just need to tell the team about that one. Anyway, there's nothing to do and there's nothing wrong here. And this is the challenge every single day in every single way. It's like, there's nothing wrong. Someone can't get into the room. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. I just need to love them. Because everything is a lesson I would learn when I get hit with something that lands, this is wrong and this is right. It's for me to just love. And if I can't love, drop into prayer immediately. Holy Spirit, help me see this differently. This is no longer okay. And I'm unwilling to live in this unreal world that I've believed since birth. And I'm no longer willing to stay there. And so I'm just going to read a little of the preface. I don't usually do this, but this was really good stuff. I mean, now it makes sense to me. Okay, so nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is how A Course in Miracles begins. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal. And you see, we have it backwards, folks. We think this is real. It's not. It's a movie. What's real is the truth. I'm a loving thought in the mind of God. That's real. Okay. It makes a fundamental distinction between the real and the unreal, between knowledge and perception. Remember that blue ring? That's the perceptual world where most of us live until we pass, till we die. And that's not it. Knowledge is at the very center. It's the desire for the peace of God only. So knowledge is truth under one law, the law of love or God. That's that little center blue. Truth is unalterable, eternal, and unambiguous. It can be unrecognized, but it cannot be changed. So every time I say this is wrong, this is right, there's a problem here, I am attempting to change the truth of who I am. And that's no longer going to work. Okay, this is why you do want to get onto the mailing list, because I keep having these little dings happening on my computer that people are frustrated they can't get in because they're not using the link I just sent them. So there we go. That's why we want to do this. Okay. So this real world, the world of love, the world of God, I'm a loving thought in the mind of God, applies to everything that God created. Guess what? God created me as a loving thought in the mind of God. God created you as a loving thought in the mind of God. God created all of us to deal with our lessons that we must learn. It is beyond learning because it is beyond time and process. So if you find yourself in time and space, that's not it. This is only in the moment of now does this really exist. The loving thought in the mind of God is right now. You can't schedule this for next Tuesday. And it didn't only happen once 3 years ago. It happens right now, or it's not happening right now. And it's for us to learn how to pull back whatever projections we're throwing out there on whomever or whatever we're throwing the projections on and challenging that lie. Because it's a lie that we're telling ourselves, and then we believe it. Okay. The world of perception, on the other hand, is the world of time, of change, of beginnings and endings. It is based on interpretation, not on facts. There's only one fact. We're loving thoughts in the mind of God. Everything else is interpretation, and that's usually a projection. It is the world of birth and death, founded on the belief in scarcity, loss, separation, and death. It is learned rather than given, selective in its perceptual emphasis, unstable in its functioning, and inaccurate in its interpretations. Okay, this is in the preface to A Course in Miracles. Jesus couldn't be clearer on this. Where does the problem lie? In my mind. And it doesn't matter what script you're playing out, because we all have different scripts. But we're still believing the lies that we're telling ourselves. And it's like, stop lying. You know, Manual for Teachers, one of the characteristics of a teacher of God is honesty. And until you're willing to say, honestly, I've just been telling myself a bunch of lies about a lot of people. And they're wrong, I'm right, and that's it. Well, that is not the way to have an experiential Course in Miracles occur. And so what this whole Zoom is, now we've got a Facebook page, and I mean, all of it is about how to experience the peace of God instead of whatever nonsense you're feeding yourself and buying into hook, line, and sinker. Or maybe you're not. And I say, I applaud, yay, we're waking up, it's happening. And I do feel that way. We're waking up and it's happening. Just keep like a hawk, go through your mind and see where you're making people wrong. Just see where it lands and then own it. It's yours. It's not the truth. It's your interpretation. And that interpretation is nonsense. Jesus even says, it's not nonsense. It's unstable. Not only is it nonsense, you're unstable. It's like, that's not a good place to be. And it's like, and just be willing. And this is the humility. Wesley and I talked a little bit about humility, because humility was not an easy one for me. I fought humility because I believed in the perceptual world being vulnerable. And that's what humility sounded like to me, being vulnerable. Being vulnerable meant you're opening yourself up to a lot of criticism. Well, here's the deal. The projection that there was a lot of people going to criticize me. Guess who? I was the only one criticizing myself. There was none of you out there. It was just me. And I was scared of me. And that's why humility was so difficult. It was like, oh my God, I'm fighting myself. I'm the unstable piece in this dream. I'm the only unstable piece in this dream, no matter what. And, I was involved in lawsuits with big banks and losing homes and all kinds of things. Believe me, I made them wrong and I was right. But it wasn't until I humbled myself going, I get it's not my money that I'll be losing. I really saw that I'm on the payroll of God and that God wants me to wake. And so I'm going to have all the support I need to do this. But I didn't trust that. And this is the development of trust that's ever so present in A Course in Miracles. And it was another section that gave me huge frustration. I had it typed out on my desk at work, right there on my desk. And I would read it every day and I go, I don't get it, because it was too simple. I lived in a very complicated brain. There were exceptions to everything. Well, there are no exceptions. If something is landing off in your world, like that person's out to get me, guess what? They're not out to get you. You are out to get you. And that's where we've got to see that's a lie. I keep telling myself that people don't like me, or I'm not accepted as part of the group, or my mother doesn't love me, or whatever garbage goes in. Those are all interpretations. The truth never changes. I am a loving thought in the mind of God, period. End of statement. And in Spanish, y punto. Period. Nothing else. And it's kind of like, and we have to get rigorous with this. And, I say this only because until you get rigorous in your own thinking with clearing this stuff out, you will suffer. You will suffer. There's nothing else that can happen. I don't know, maybe no one else ever thought of this. I always wondered why, I could get to periods of happy for short periods of time. And then my new ever beautiful lover would do something that wasn't okay. And it was over. Suffering started. And it was with everything. I'd buy the perfect house, the perfect property, build the perfect house. And then Chase decides they're going to take it. And I could never understand, and again, I'm such a horrible person. That's why this stuff is happening. No, they're just lessons that I would learn so that I could see the truth of who I am and come back into the loving mind of God. But I saw it as the worst thing that could possibly happen. And cancer, oh my God, I must really hate myself because I created cancer. No, it was a lesson I would learn how to look beyond the projection of body, to look beyond the perceptual world, to go into the true desire of my heart, which was the peace of God. Now I had to get through all those other rings. Just under perception is emotion. And believe me, that was a biggie for me. I didn't like it because I didn't like my feelings. I didn't like them. I wanted to go through my life without having feelings. Well, guess what? In order to do this work, there are going to be feelings that come up. The main thing, and this is my little, asterisk, in order to not make it harder on yourself, when you have these emotions, do not, underline it, all caps, do not project them on someone else. Because guess what? You will suffer greatly. Just have the emotion. But most of us wouldn't know a pure emotion without projection. I certainly didn't initially. It was everyone's Chase Manhattan, the bank took my property. They're wrong. There was always someone I projected on. Always. Because I didn't want to admit my infallibility of waking up from this dream. And I invite you all, and I know you all working on this, just be rigorous. I can't even say that enough. With rigor, take this on. With rigor. Don't let anything slide through. It was like this morning when I couldn't get into the Zoom room. My mind immediately went to, what's wrong? Nothing. And I was able to turn it around very quickly, and it was fine. But it was such an immediate response. There's nothing wrong, Calico. Honey, you're a loving thought in the mind of God. That's never going to change. That's eternal. That never dies. The perceptual world, you will die. And everything in it will die. So let's wake up and get out of this perceptual world as quickly as possible. It's not doing us any favors. Okay, so with that being said, okay, so we do have this Facebook page now, if you're on Facebook, mind training. I think it's ACIM mind training. And join that and continue to share with, whatever, post thoughts, post, difficulties. Really allow that group to be another avenue to get this stuff out of your head on paper, and perhaps there'll be someone, and it's not just me, because believe me, I'm just a student. I will eternally be a student of A Course in Miracles in this perceptual world. But there'll be someone there that may have some assistance, like even to just say, breathe. And sometimes that's all I needed to hear when I was in times of distress. Breathe, Calico. You're being held by God. Oh, doesn't feel like it, but okay. All right. So use the Facebook page, use this vehicle, and there'll be more coming along, because, I just feel like this is something that we each are going through, and we're each teachers of God that are still learning lessons. And all I can say, it's a beautiful thing. Embrace whatever lesson is coming before you. Embrace whatever feeling is coming up, because feelings are just lessons I would learn. If you don't like being angry, guess what? You're going to have probably a lot of lessons that are going to trigger anger. If you have trouble crying, guess what? You're probably going to have a lot of lessons that are going to trigger tears. It's specific to our scripts. They're all different, but the process to heal it is exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to end the recording. Yes.